And we are live. All right, back, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Freddy's Ready podcast. This is episode, I think 9 or 8. You know, it's been a while. Been out for a little bit. Been out of the game for a little bit, you know. Yeah, had a couple things going on in terms of school and personal life, whatever. So we're back, though. That's all that matters. We're back. We're here to be more consistent. That's the goal. Be consistent, you know what I'm saying? Be consistent throughout the whole rest of the year, you know. But there's a lot of things we got to talk about, and in terms of catching up on the events that have been happening recently or whatnot. But to get into like a summary, what we're going to talk about, basically we're going to go over some boxing news and some UFC news that happened recently, NBA updates, MLB season that just got started, so I'm excited for that. And then I'll give you guys a little current pound for pound list in terms of boxing. So hope you guys are all doing well. You know, I'm doing well as well. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. If you asked me, if you didn't, you didn't, whatever. So we'll just jump into some of the boxing, you know what I mean? So just catch up on some of the fights. I mean, it's been very controversial for a while. For this year, I think, in terms of boxing. So the first one that comes to mind is Gervonta and Lamont Roach. And this one comes to mind because of the uncertainty in the result that a lot of people were left with. I personally had it 8-4 for Lamont Roach. I wouldn't put it past you, or I wouldn't call you crazy if you had it a draw. But I do think if you had Tank winning, you gotta look at the score a little better. You know what I'm saying? Simply because I think you're being biased, and I know you're being biased. The main thing about this fight was the commentators were extremely biased, as well as the analyst. When I was listening to this fight, all I heard the whole time was, "Oh, Lamont Roach has to watch out, can't exchange with him," while he's tagging Gervonta Davis. "Oh, he can't exchange with him. He can't get in the pocket. He can't keep affording to throw these long combinations when Tank's right there because he's going to get countered." What comes to mind is, how in the hell are you going to tell somebody that's winning a fight to stop doing what's making them win the fight? I get it. Tank's power hitter, knocks people out, good fundamental boxing, which, I mean, he does. He has really good fundamental boxing. But when he's constantly on the back foot, he's not throwing long combinations. He's not throwing a variety of combinations with his punches. He's not really mixing anything up. You can't really sit back and say, "Oh, he's winning the fight," because he lands these 2-3 punches that are hard. No, Lamont Roach is walking him down and he's throwing. Whether or not he was landing, which he was landing, but if you wanted to score it, "Oh, Tank's defense was good, this and this," he never really tagged Roach. Never tagged him. So right then and there, offensively, Roach won the fight easily. If we were just gonna go on offense. Now defensively, Lamont Roach did a good enough job to the point where he took a lot of steam off Tank's punches. Tank really wasn't being Tank. He wasn't unloading on him. And towards the end of the round, you could definitely see that he was starting to kind of tee off on Roach, or try to tee off, but Roach was just covering up. He would at times exchange where I know Tank's never really had that before. And the few times that somebody's exchanged with him, the one time was Leo Santa Cruz, countered him and knocked him out. The other time was Pitbull, controversial decision. I'm not going to get into that one, but that one was controversial as well. Now you look at this Lamont Roach fight, a guy who was mixing it up with them and punching with him, where it seemed that Tank did supply the power, but Roach was on the accuracy. Roach owned the distant management and the combinations and the accuracy. You could just tell he was landing at a higher rate and more effectively than Tank was. Tank would unload, and you would hear the punches, but a lot of them were off the gloves, off his arms or whatnot. So in that aspect, what did Tank really do that offensively that showed you he won the fight? Defensively, I mean, I would only give you points defensively if you're making a miss and then you're hitting him back. That's defense. But if you're just backing up and you're making a miss, boom, 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 making a miss, and he's still throwing, what makes you think you're going to win the round? And to go back onto the commentators part, I love that the commentator of that, I forgot his name on top of my head, But to think that somebody gave Tank the first or second round, I forgot which one it was, where Tank landed one punch and they gave him the round. Let that sink in. If you're Tank and you land one punch, that's enough to win you a round. Where's the fairness in that for everybody? It's not. So that's the thing. That's what Roach had to go in there with, right? And this is partially why I think he won the fight. I think if Tank is seen as this power guy, juggernaut in that division, seen as this pound for pound star, and throws one punch and wins a round, and still it's known as a close fight, the Lamont Roach won the fight. There's no doubt Roach won the fight, in my opinion. And like I said, 8-4. I could see if you had it 7-5 for Roach. I wouldn't call you crazy, but I would tolerate 6-6 for whatever. But I mean, if you had 7-5 hit Tank or 8-4 Tank, I think you're just crazy at that point. I really think you're going more off your ears than your eyes. I mean, when you look at it, you got to put the bias aside, and you got to sit down and say who performed better, and that was Lamont Roach. I hope they run it back soon. I really do. I feel the fans will really like that fight, especially because that'll be Tank's rematch that he wants to get. You know, I don't think Tank's had a rematch before, especially at this level of his career, and he hasn't really been tested by a guy who's a 130 pounder. He's not even a 135er. So when you get a guys like 135, like Cepeda, who Tank could probably still take care of him, but Cepeda, Shakur, it just makes these guys look like monsters to Tank now. Especially a guy like Shakur, who's going to just stay on the outside and not get close to you. Way bigger than Tank. Huge. Shakur's huge, right? This is where I do believe Tank's resume and career kind of took a hit. I know it sounds crazy to think that over a draw, but if, for example, if this was a Canelo, if this was a Bivol, a Usyk, you wouldn't criticize or have criticize their resume. You wouldn't, because of they fought everybody and this is probably an off night. But when you look at Tank, he hasn't fought anybody at a high level. Ryan Garcia at 136 or whatever with the rehydration, whatever. And that was that. And then Pitbull. But Pitbull was out of nowhere. So you're looking at his resume and you're saying, hey, you haven't really fought a top 5 guy in your weight class at his moment, right? So, and then the one time you fought the champion you fought at 130 gave you a tough fight. So now you're kind of sitting there going, where does Tank fit in all this? I know a lot of guys have Tank in the top 10 pound for pound or whatever. Me personally, I don't have him top 10 pound for pound. I don't think I have him top 15. Sure, skill wise he could be, but you gotta add resume and skill come hand in hand. You can't just be skillful this and this. No, it's resume. At the end of the day, I could look like the most skilled guy in the ring against a bunch of nobodies, but then when I fight somebody good, what's gonna happen? You right? That's what I'm trying to get to. But the next couple fights that are gonna happen. So the next fight, that's the most recent. That's the one that's coming up sooner. This is probably one of the most excited I've ever been for a fight. Is Conor Benn versus Eubank Jr. Ooh, it's gonna be a fight, guys. And for these who don't know, their dads fought back in the day. I believe Eubank won the first one, and they tied the second with people thinking Nigel Benn won the second or something like that. Both fighters haven't been champion. Conor Benn's a 147 pounder. 147. I'm sorry. Conor Benn's a 147. Eubank's a 160 pounder. They're going to fight at 160. So I've been thinking about it, talking to some guys from work about this, about who's going to win, who do I favor. I was leaning towards Benn for the majority of the conversation, simply because I believe Eubank was cracking under that relentless pressure that was being put on him by Liam Smith and was getting caught in the corner. And a guy like Conor Benn, who just unleashes bombs on you and throws these nasty variety of combinations, throws with intention behind every single punch. The creativeness and his punch arsenal is ridiculous, right? But I started looking at Chris Eubank and I go, man, this guy's relentless too. And Ben's been getting caught as of late and hasn't really been putting people out as he used to be before he got caught. I'm not saying it's a cheat. I'm just saying this is facts. Benn hasn't put on a lights out performance. I want to say in a couple years. Eubank obviously knocked out Liam Smith or whatnot. So towards the end of this conversation I was having with my coworkers or whatnot, I think I ended up, and I'm still sticking with this. I'm going with Chris Eubank simply because of the size difference. I mean, guys, 160 and 147 is a huge difference. Eubank can't make 147. Conor Benn can. That should tell you something. For those who don't really know about weight cuts and whatnot, and I'm not saying I'm a freaking nutritionist, I'm a freaking doctor or whatever. I'm just telling you from what I've heard, the stories that I've heard, the experiences that I've heard. If you get a guy that's 135 and a guy that's, let's say, 147, we'll see that. That 147 guy cannot make 135. So that should tell you the size difference. Yes, they could be the same height and all that. Like if you put Canelo and Crawford together, right? Because they're going to fight. Crawford's a bigger dude in terms of height, reach, and all. But then you look at the mass. You look at Canelo's neck is huge. His legs are huge. His arms and upper body, torso is all compact and huge. Whereas Crawford, you see more lengthy. More athletic, I guess you could say. And that's where a lot of people get confused about, oh, but they look like they're the same size. Yeah, and so you get hit, and you're like, this was carrying a lot more weight behind his punches. And that's where I think Conor Benn was going to have the issue with against Eubank. Eubank's going to put a pace on him, I believe, for the most part. And then towards the end of the fight, Eubank's going to stop him. I see him stopping him in around 10. I see him stopping him late. Ben's gonna tire, and then Eubank's just gonna tee off on him, almost get a stoppage or whatnot. That's what I have for that fight. But then after that, on May 2nd, on a Friday, is that huge card with Teofimo and Arnold, Haney and Ramirez, and then Ryan Garcia and Rolly. These are good fights. I think the best fight on the card is going to be Teofimo with Barboza, because Barboza is one of those guys where unless you're really watching boxing, you don't really know who this guy is. But he's talented. I mean, just came back from London beating Catterall. Guy can mix up the punches. He mixes up his punches, has really good footwork, can stay on the outside, can also exchange in the inside. The one aspect of his game that I could see as a flaw against a guy like Teofimo, who's really good in most of the aspects of boxing, is the power. Does he have enough power to stop, or not stop, but gain respect from Teofimo? Teofimo's going to walk you down. That's how Teofimo fights. He's going to walk you down. But does he have enough power to the point where he makes Teofimo stutter and not be so explosive with those lunging jabs, those lunging hugs, lunging right hands? If you could do that, you have a good chance of winning. Because Teofimo didn't really do that with Loma, because Loma was peppering him, this and this. But if you don't, if Arnold doesn't really sit on his punches, wants to just pepper him, he's going to end up getting caught, and he's going to end up getting finished. My thing is, if Teofimo's also had issues with people in the past that could box on the outside going backwards, Arnold's not going to run. Arnold's not the type of fighter where he's going to run. He's going to, I'm going to run, hit you with a jab and run. No, Arnold's going to sit there. But my thing is, can Arnold sit down on his punches and exchange for a little bit and then get out? If that's the case, Teofimo's going to have a long night too. So this fight's I wouldn't say 50-50. I would say more 65-35 for Teofimo. Simply because Teofimo has the resume, the experience, and then the power to go against a guy like Arnold, where Arnold's probably equally as skilled, but does lack the power, the experience, as well as the resume, experience as Teofimo, who's fought a lot of the top guys. After that, we have Haney and Ramirez. This fight, people are putting Ramirez off a lot. Ramirez is an Olympian. This guy was on unified champion at 140. They're fighting at 147. I mean, if you think Haney's gonna walk through him in terms of he's not gonna let him win a round, you're crazy. Ramirez is going to win rounds. Ultimately, though, if Haney can come back to where he was prior to the Ryan Garcia fight, he's going to have no issue winning. Probably 9-3, 9-3, or 8-4. I wouldn't have Haney anything less than that. Later in the fight, Ramirez will probably tire, as he does have the the volume punching that can give Haney issues, but Haney has the footwork to get away from that. Haney has the experience, and he has the jab to keep Ramirez at bay for most of the fight. Ultimately, that is if Haney is back to where he was. If he's cracked and he can't really take a punch no more, Ramirez absolutely has a chance of winning and upsetting the fight. Then the main event is Ryan Garcia and Rolly. That's going to be fireworks. Ryan Garcia and Rolly, if that fight goes the distance, I don't know what I might do. But that fight's going to end in a knockout. No way that fight doesn't end in a knockout. I mean, both guys have terrible defense, first of all. And they both have incredible power. Ultimately, I'm leaning towards Ryan because of the speed. The speed and the accuracy. Rolly's more loads up. He could crack. I would say Rolly has the equal amount of power as Ryan Garcia, but Ryan Garcia has the accuracy and the speed to go along with it. Where Rolly's more, I'm going to sit down and try to take you out. Ryan's explosive. He's going to let you come in and he's going to counter you with a hook or something. So I'm leaning Ryan Garcia by knockout in the 4th round. Yeah, this fight's not going to go past 8, guys. And then finally, for that one, we have Canelo and Skull, where I believe Canelo's going to really just beat him up. I think Canelo's going to walk through him, where I do think Skull is going to give him a little bit of issues because of his height and his boxing ability. But Canelo's seen everybody. Canelo's going to walk him down, hurt him up, beat him up, and then get him out of there. Skull's going to mentally break, in my opinion. So I have Canelo by decision. Unanimous decision. And then rumor is Benavidez and Bivol. That's going to be a pretty good one too, guys. For people that don't know, Benavidez and Bivol is up for the middleweight. No, I'm sorry, the light heavyweight championship of the world, right? And that's pretty good for them. That's a pretty good fight in terms of what's good matchups. Benavidez is a guy who can give Bivol crazy, or anybody, crazy amounts of damage and difficulty, simply because his ability to walk forward and his experience, but the volume this guy throws with. But Bivol has, the other hand, the counter ability, where he can just simply stay on the outside and pepper you. And that's the thing Benavidez really struggles with, where I would give the fight to Bivol now, but later in the line, Benavidez is going to be champion, be undisputed probably. So if that happens in the summer, I have Bivol by unanimous decision, and then I see him fighting probably the winner of Canelo or Terrence Crawford in next year. So I wanted to give my pound for pound list a little bit. So at number 1, I have Usyk right now for boxing. Usyk, the heavyweight undisputed, or not undisputed, but the unified champion. Resume speaks for it. Anthony Joshua twice, Tyson Fury, Daniel Dubois. Did he beat? No, he didn't beat Wilder. He beat well, just those 4 names alone, and then he just came down. He came up from cruiserweight and beat everybody. That's the number 1 guy. Number 2, I have Inoue. Inoue is number 2 because of the run that he's on, knocking everybody out, knocking out Luis Pantero Neri and all that. So, and I'm looking forward to him and Nakatani. That's who I'm looking forward to. So that's a good fight. But Inoue is just running through the whole division right now, the whole lower weight classes. So that he has to be number 2 or number 1. These are interchangeable and all that. Sorry about that. Number 3. Number 3, I'm going to go with Crawford. Crawford because he was undisputed at 147, moved up, but he is not. I think number 1 and 2 are way more higher than 3 and everybody else. At number 4, I have Bivol. Undisputed at light heavyweight. Guys like Beterbiev, Canelo. He fought Beterbiev, Canelo. Oh, he beat Frick. I'm forgetting that name on top of my head. Let me see if I can look it up. He has this big fight over somebody. Arthur, and then Zurdo Ramirez. And all. Yeah, so he has got wins over Joe Smith, Canelo, Zurdo Ramirez, and Beterbiev. So that's a resume for itself right there at that division, right? At 5, I have Bam Rodriguez. And the reason I have Bam Rodriguez at so high is similar to Inoue, he's running the lower weight classes. Beating guys like Cuadras, beating guys like Chocolatito, beating guys like Gallo and Rambasai. He's just cruising through these weight classes. He's gonna fight, I believe he's fighting I believe he has a fight schedule, doesn't he? Let me see. With potentially Fernando Martinez, but we'll see how that turns out. But right now, Bam's the number 5, no doubt. 6, I have Canelo. Resume speaks for itself, although it has been at a lack of high level competition recently. But his resume speaks for he's still at the top, beating these young cats. So I'm gonna give him at the 6. At the 7, I'm gonna go with. This is tough right here. 7, I'm gonna put. I'm gonna put Beterbiev. Beterbiev, just because of the loss doesn't mean it knocks him down completely. But guy's beating everybody at that weight class too. He's knocked out Joe Smith, he's beating Bivol, he's beating Arthur, he's beating all these guys by knockout except Bivol. So you gotta give him up there. He's coming off a loss, but that's the only reason he's at number 7. If not, you'd be at number 5 or 6. Number 8, I'm gonna go with David Benavidez. Benavidez deserves his flowers. This man it's crazy because 3 top 10 guys are in the light heavyweight division. So that's interesting. They're all gonna go at it, right? Benavidez beat guys like Morel, beating guys like Caleb Plant, beating guys like I forgot the other cat's name from the light heavyweight, Demetrius Andre. So he's beating high level boxers and he's moving up and he's looking to take the crown. So that guy's a number 8. Number 9, I'm gonna go with Junto Nakatani. You can't look past this man's resume either. I mean, and his skill. Overall, his skill was great. I believe him and Inoue are going to have a what is it called? Not a superstar fight, but a high emotional fight. It's going to be a fight where they're going to go at it and they're going to beat the shit out of each other. But Nakatani and Inoue, I see them going at it. Maybe next year or year after that. At 10, this is where it gets hard because there's that one cat from the lower weight class. I forget his name. And then there's other guys like Teofimo. Shakur comes to mind. Keyshawn. No, not Keyshawn. A lot of guys come to mind. But I'm going to go. I'm in the middle of Dubois from the heavyweight division. I am thinking of at 140. Boots is an argument as well at number 10. At 54, not really anybody. 60, not really anybody. 68, not really any. I'm gonna go Dubois. I'm gonna go Daniel Dubois. Only loss as recently is to Usyk, the number 1 pound for pound fight in the world, where that controversial knockdown happened, or that controversial low blow happened. But Daniel Dubois to me is number 10. So that's my list. 1's Usyk, 2 Inoue, 3 Crawford, 4 Bivol, 5 Bam, 6 Canelo, 7 Beterbiev, 8 Benavidez, 9 Nakatani, 10 Daniel Dubois. So that's just to give a little bit of update on the boxing and how I have it going right now. Going into let's talk about some NBA. UFC, nothing really has been going on lately. The Moreno and Usyk fight was pretty good, but I wanna skip that and go into the NBA. The NBA is getting pretty interesting. It's getting pretty hot and pretty rowdy. I mean, you got teams like the Lakers who came off 2 big victories against Houston and Memphis, and I believe they have OKC twice next week. So the way it's looking, it's looking decent for them. They're in the 4th seed right now. Currently, they're half a game behind Denver, and 3.5 games behind Sorry, 2.5 games behind Houston. And then they have a 2-game cushion against the Warriors, 2.5 games against the Grizz, 2.5 against Timbs, and then 3 games on the Clippers. So the whole point for them is to avoid the play-in, in my opinion. And when you look at it, realistically, if you're any team, you do not want to play OKC. That's the one team you do not want to play is Oklahoma City, especially before you get to the Western Conference Finals. So the Lakers want to get to the 3. That's where I would say the Lakers want is the 3. Getting to the 3, you avoid the play-in. You avoid playing OKC because at the end of the day, you're going to have to play either the number 2 or if number 2 gets bounced, you play the number 1. But I think Lakers are in a really good spot. Really, really good spot. Now, Golden State's also heating up. Golden State, I mean, Curry's balling out of his mind. Jimmy Butler's been playing well. So they're also a team that can make a run. I just think they lack a lot of size. They don't really have the size to compete with a team like the Thunder, Nuggets, Lakers, Timberwolves, and even the Grizzlies, in my opinion. They're just... Do I think they can keep up with the level of fundamentals and the high intensity, the schemes, the high intensity plays? Sure, but in a 7-game series, how long is that going to benefit you before they get the matchups down and they get whatever they want to do? Especially with those guys who are going to slow the game down. They're going to slow the game down on you. They're going to get the matchups they want, especially if you have Draymond running the center. They're going to want to go on Draymond, this and this. Houston has a good enough team to match up. All these guys really have good centers, except I would say the Lakers, but even then, you were not going to have LeBron on Draymond Green. It's going to be a mismatch, right? That's pretty cool. Houston at the 2. Houston's making a run. They have a really good chance to go, but at the same time, they have a really good chance of getting bounced in the first round. They're very consistent, very young, very well put, but ultimately, do they have the experience? Do they have the resume, the heart? They have the heart because of how young they are, but do they have the experience to take them into the championship? Ultimately, I don't think so. I wouldn't be surprised if they get bounced in the first round or second round, especially if they get matched up against, from looking at it right here, Timberwolves, Clippers, or even the Grizzlies. You know, those are teams that could beat them any given day. Boston, I mean, this one's interesting. Boston's only 4 games back. I know Cleveland is probably gonna keep the first seed, but as of right now, it looks like Boston is the favorite in the East. And then a lot of people probably had them being the favorites in the East for a long time because obviously their championship, they haven't really lost anybody or whatnot. But Cleveland was playing out of their mind recently. Boston's 32-7 on the road. But then Cleveland at home is 32-5. So you're looking at these games, and Boston has the best road record in the league. Yeah. Boston has the best road record in the league. OKC's second with 29-7, and then Cleveland's 28-10. So that shows the level of skill, of high level skill, not the level of skill. I'm sorry, the level of not level of it's more well rounded. How well rounded these guys are. That they're going out there and whooping people in their own home, right? And then obviously OKC's 34-5 at home, right? And their best record at home, and then second best record on the road. So OKC is by far, in my opinion, the favorite to win the championship. Now, in the East, it's not as interesting because of once it gets to 4 and down, there's not really much of an chance of upset for Cleveland or Cavs. In the West, the Rockets and Nuggets can get upset by any team, by like the Lakers. The Timberwolves are still in it, and then vice versa. But realistically, the OKC the only team safe in the Eastern, in the Western, and then the Eastern you have Cleveland, Boston, and I think the Knicks will be pretty safe for a minute. Indiana can get bounced in the first round, and they're similar to the Rockets. Although they did go to the Eastern Conference Finals, I'm sorry, but they're still a little new, and I don't really see Indiana going deep into the playoffs. I think Indiana lacks experience, so we'll see how that goes. But my next one is OKC running the West. It looks like it. OKC is absolutely smashing, especially with how good they are on the road as well at home. They're 35-11 in their own conference. The only other team that's really good in their own conference is the Lakers. They're 32-13, so that's really good. Then you look at teams in the East, 38-9. Cleveland against their own conference, 35-11. Boston, 32-14. The Knicks, and in the West, everybody's pretty much under 30 except Timberwolves, Lakers, and Thunder. But even then, everybody else is pretty much even. You look at the other side, and I mean, those three teams are running it, and then other teams are getting close to 30. You have a lot of teams that are at 27, 20, 27, 21, or whatnot. So the OKC is definitely, in my opinion, running the West. I don't see them really losing in the first, second round. Western Conference Final, maybe, if they get matched up against either Denver or the Lakers. That's the only team I could see beating them, simply because Lakers have Luka Doncic, LeBron James, then have schemes. Austin Reeves is probably the best third option in basketball. And then Denver, you have Jokic, who's unstoppable, but OKC is too big. They're too mobile. They have experience now under their belt, and then ultimately they have the MVP favorite right now in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So I see them definitely running the West for now. Moving on to some MLB. This is the one I'm excited for. I'm excited MLB started because this is my favorite topic. This is my most, where I'm most passionate about is the MLB. I mean, let's talk about them Dodgers, baby. Them freaking Dodgers, man. The Dodgers are looking good, starting out 7-0. This Dodgers team is ridiculous. When I mean ridiculous, I mean ridiculous. I wrote down a couple of things right here. Let's look at their starting rotation. 1, Snell. 2, Yamamoto. 3, Glasnow. 4, Dustin May. 5, Roki Sasaki. 6, Clayton Kershaw. Oh, and if you want Ohtani to be there, Ohtani's in the freaking 7. Now, the pitching is what's going to give the Dodgers the advantage over anybody, because there's no one that's this deep, especially in the starting rotation. I was having a conversation with a couple of my buddies. This is probably the best rotation I ever put it. I get it. Back when New York was in the 90s, Braves in the 90s with Glavine, Maddox, and Smoltz. Those are the three-headed dragon, right? But you look at it, Blake Snell, Yamamoto, and Glasnow, that's three-headed dragon right there. Oh, and then you got Dustin May, who can no-hit anybody every given day. Clayton Kershaw, the veteran experience, who isn't who he used to be, but obviously can still do that. And then you have Roki Sasaki, who's still learning. But Sasaki, we'll get into that a little bit later about his pitching and all, and Ohtani. This is what I would do if I was the Dodgers. Ohtani, I would make him a high-leverage bullpen guy. A high-leverage bullpen arm. And I know to some people that might sound crazy, but when you look at it, you want him hitting, and you don't want him worrying too much about going 8 innings, 7 innings, 6 innings in a game, right? If you can make him a guy that comes out of the pen in the 8, the 9, possibly closing, and then the 6, 7, or whatever, he only is going to throw, 15 pitches, 20 pitches a game? He can throw with that intensity for a shorter amount of time, which will save his career. And I was at a Dodger game on Monday with my buddy Eric. Shout out to my buddy. And he goes, honestly, man, I think Juan Soto screwed over the Mets with his contracts. Could you imagine somebody paying $760 million, this and this? And I told him, and I'm a Dodger fan, and I know this might be a little bit of controversy behind this. If Ohtani, there's rumors, if Ohtani doesn't pitch anymore, or let's say he pitches for 2 more years, we, as the Dodger fan, the Dodgers technically got screwed out of a deal. I don't care what you say or what anybody says. If Ohtani does not pitch, he is not worth $700 million. Let me say that again. If Ohtani does not pitch, he is not worth $700 million. And that might sound crazy. I'll explain it right now. Ohtani doesn't pitch. He's a DH. He can steal, can hit homers, power, and he has good contact. That 3 is not worth 70 mil because his defense doesn't come into play. Guys who, I would say at most he's worth 50, 55, maybe 45. I would say 50. We're going to say 50 if he doesn't ever pitch, right? Now, guys who I would say are worth 55, 50, around the same as him if he never pitches. Mind you, this is only if he never pitches. If he pitches, all this is out the door. Is Bobby Witt. Bobby Witt Vlad, because they have Gold Glove level defense. Bobby Witt can hit 330 any given day, can hit 34 bombs, 100 RBIs, and steal 60 bases. So that's the guy who I would say is worth a lot of money. No one's worth 700 mil over 10 years, 12 years, or whatever. Soto, basically Soto's going to be a DH soon. He's not good on the base. He's not going to steal you 40 bases a year. He's not going to be a Platinum Glove, Gold Glove winner. He's just going to hit. So Soto, even then, is not worth 700 mil. That's where I'm trying to get to. Now, a guy like Vlad and Bobby Witt, who can hit and then make a difference on defense, those are the guys that are worth a lot of value, a lot of money. And that's what I was trying to get at, is if Ohtani doesn't pitch, we got rigged out of a deal. Now, going back, I'm sorry for jumping back and forth to the Dodger rotation. Ohtani, to preserve him and to keep him available for that long contract, make him a high leverage bullpen arm. That's my opinion. That's honestly my well thought opinion, is bullpen, especially if you have this good of a rotation. If you didn't, understand, make him a starter, let him get back in there. But if you don't, you don't have to throw 4 innings, 5 innings, 2 innings, 1 inning, 3 if anything. At this point, he's still focusing on his hitting. He hasn't had a year this good offensively as year prior to this year, simply because he didn't have to pitch. So if you want him to stay at that level and remain a top 5 hitter, a top 3 hitter, a top 3 base runner, you need to make sure you minimize his minimize his ability to multitask. He shouldn't have to, I have to worry about pitching. But I have to worry about hitting. You don't want that from him, especially from a star of this caliber. You don't want that. So that's why I believe bullpen is the best way for Ohtani to go. And then Kershaw, you let him back. I said this before, and I say it to everybody, I don't give a rat's ass. Kershaw deserves whatever he wants. Obviously, we're not paying 40 mil. But if he wants 10 mil, we give him 10 mil. That guy has put his career on the line for the Dodgers. Career on the line? What are you, Freddy? You're crazy. No, I'm not. This guy in his whole career pitched for the Dodgers. 3 Cy Youngs, MVP, Gold Glove, and all that. All that with the Dodgers when they weren't even competitive for a World Series. Obviously, 2017 and above, yes. But before that, he wasn't. That's why Kershaw, in my opinion, give him a ring. I don't care if he gets another this year and doesn't pitch a game. You give him a ring, right? Now, to get onto the offensive side of the ball. Teoscar Hernandez is having MVP caliber years, right? He's going to have an MVP caliber year. He's off to a hot start. Leads the team in RBIs, if I'm not mistaken. Mookie's really on a hot start as well with his bat, hitting bombs. Ohtani's doing decent as well. But this is one guy. There's one guy that I really want to shine the light on and give him his props, praise the guy a little bit, and that's Tommy Edman. To me, Tommy Edman is the most complete player on the Dodgers. Crazy to sound, right? You got Mookie Betts, Teoscar, Freddy from all that, right? So when you look at it, there's 3 guys realistically that come to mind. We'll 4 that come to mind in terms of we'll go back to 3 that come down to overall ability and well-rounded player. So I'm picking Edman. That's the guy that we're going to compare. Number 1 is Ohtani. 2 is Betts. 3 is Freeman. Because Teoscar doesn't have the Gold Glove caliber or defense or whatever. So Freeman has the Gold Glove ability to play defense. That makes him good. The contact's off the charts, and then he has power. Betts, but lacks the speed of Edman. Lacks the base running that Edman has. And lacks the versatility that Edman has. So right away, Freeman's not more well-rounded than Tommy Edman. Ohtani doesn't play defense. Right away, right there and there. Doesn't play defense. Does not make him well-rounded. Does not make him the more well-rounded player. Hitter, no doubt. Hitter is no doubt. Player, no. So Mookie's the only other one that comes to mind because Mookie can play short in the outfield. Can hit for contact. Can hit for power. There's decently speed. The only thing I would separate them with And you can make an argument that the hitting side of the game can't outweighs the defensive part of the game in this conversation, in this debate. But Edmonds' base running ability is levels above everybody except Ohtani. He can do it all. He plays all the positions, plays outfield, infield, can hit for contact, hit for power, steal the bases, take advantage of missed throws. He does everything, and that's the guy that needs to get praised. And I mean, for the deal that he got, Dodgers should be thankful, should be thanking him. I'm thanking you, Tommy Edman. Thank you. Thank you, Tommy. That's the guy I would say is the most well-rounded player in baseball. No doubt about it in my mind. That's pretty much it for the Dodgers. That's the key for the Dodgers, is those players are all contributing to the team. And that's why they're 7-0, possibly going on 8-0 today. The Yankees, the Padres 6-0. They're playing right now, I think, but we'll see how that goes after. Padres too are going hot. Although I'm not saying this as a hating Dodger fan. I'm not saying this. I swear to God, they're gonna cool off. Same thing with the Dodgers. They're gonna cool off. Everybody's gonna cool off. Padres will cool off a lot more. They're not gonna have the depth the Dodgers do. They're not gonna have the versatility the Dodgers do, and they're not gonna have the options the Dodgers do going into the season, as well as if people get hurt, Dodgers have the next guy up. The depth, Padres don't really have that, especially with all the head office having these disagreements and making it public or whatnot, which is completely unprofessional. So we'll leave it at that. I think the Padres will cool down. I think they have a good chance of being the second seed. I do think Arizona's gonna overtake them at the end of the year. Yankees, that bat, man, that bat. That's talk of the town right now. It's a torpedo bat. A lot of players are using it. Ellie De La Cruz, first they used it 4 for 5, 2 bombs, double, 7 RBIs, whatever. It's interesting because it is legal. It is legal in terms of the width of the bat, the size, the mathematics around that, whatever. But it's like, damn, if you can manipulate the bat to whatever you're thinking of doing, it's like the pitchers are kind of like, what the heck, man? Why can't we do whatever we want to do, you know? Why can't we mix sweat with rosin and make it all sticky? It's legal. We're within the guidelines of the game. We're within the rules of the game. But you're going to punish us because it's sticky? Same thing for hitters. We're within the legal rules of the game. The legal rules of the bat and everything. But we're going to make it thicker. And whatever we think is better. That's where everything contradicts. And everything kind of gets put into this ball of this conversation. And this ball is going to erupt sooner or later. And people are going to be left unhappy with whatever decision is made. I mean, me personally, even it out. If you're going to allow the torpedo bats, allow pitchers to use all the not like pine tar or anything, but do allow them to mix sweat and all that with sunscreen. That's legal. That's within the rules of the game. That you should allow them to use if you're going to allow the torpedo bat. Excuse me. I want to chime in a little bit on Rafael Devers. I mean, he's, last time I checked, 0 for 16, 13 Ks or something like that. My opinion, my humble opinion, I believe it's them moving him to the DH role. Moving him to the DH role, I'm certain took an effect on his mental strength and mental stability. I was watching a video. I can't remember the video. If I find it, I'll tag it somewhere. But there was a guy explaining all this. And he talks about Stanton, who is probably the best power hitter of this generation, next to Judge, open up about being moved from the outfield to DH. And he basically expresses how, not, almost like a sense of solitude and the sense of being left out. Because, mind you go from right field to DH, cool, yeah, most people are like, oh yeah, you're just hitting. Yeah, but you don't feel like you're a part of the game. You go up and hit, and then I'm going to go sit down for another like 2 innings. And then I'm going to come back and hit one time, and I'm going to go sit down. Right field, the ball is constantly going to hit you. And not just to mention, you can make up for it on defense. You can't do that on offense. You DH, you won't have another opportunity until you come back to hit. And that's certain. Right field, sure, you might not get a ball hit to you, but you're like, okay, I can make it up for any play right now. DH, you have to wait till you can go hit. That's why it's so mentally draining for these DHs, especially a guy like Rafael Devers, who refused to give up third base to Bregman, who wasn't. And ultimately, I believe they talked him into it. But I wouldn't say he's definitely not as motivated to get back to where he was, but I do think he's more discouraged simply because they moved him there. They basically told him, hey, we have a better option here, and then now I'm sucking in DH. That's why it goes hand in hand. You see what I mean? You didn't want to be there, now you're there, now you can't even produce right. Now you're not contributing to the team as much as you would like to. That's where the mental side of the game really takes over the physical side of the game. From a lot of people that don't really know about sports, specifically baseball. This game is 90. I played it. I'm not saying I played it professionally. I'm not saying I played it at the collegiate level or any of that. I did play it up until my high school days were over. I've played it my whole life. I've been around people that play it still to this day, collegiate level or whatever. I've played with players that play collegiately. The mental side of the game outweighs the physical side. I want to say it's about 70-30. Sure, physically you could throw a ball hard, cool, yeah. What happens when you can't hit the ball? Now you're gonna go on defense. I was a catcher my whole life. If you want now I'm on my defense, I'm still thinking about it. Fuck, I can't hit the ball, man. What the hell's going on? But you blink, all of a sudden your pitcher's throwing the ball. You see what I mean? Now it kind of goes hand in hand because I was able to distract myself in terms of, okay, I struck out or whatever, I got to go call the game. Most of the times I called the games as a catcher. I believe signs don't get into higher level high school or collegiate level, but for the most part of my life, I called the games in terms of catching. I had to get it out. I had to get over with it. I had to basically say, you know what, hey, you struck out or you popped out, you grounded out, whatever. You have to go call the game and support your team. Now, think of it if I didn't have that, if I was just on the bench like that. I DH'd my senior year of high school. I'm not saying I was D1 or anything, but in those important games, striking out and then going to the bench, you're thinking, damn, I got to wait an inning or two to try and make up for it. And then you look at my other teammates who were hitters and really good at defense and really good hitters, but let's say they had a bad day hitting. On defense, if the ball hits them and they make a play, guess what? You made it up. You made a play. And that's why I'm trying to get to about this DH role. For a guy like Devers who refused it, but yet now was, I wouldn't say punished. I'm not going to say punished, but was forced into that. And then now is not performing at the level he usually performs at. It definitely is a sign of him being discouraged. So that's my take on that. He'll get back to where he is. He's a big boy. He's a player. I mean, baller, you know, he's gonna get there. And then recently the news that just came out today was Jackson Merrill's contract. I mean, 9 years, 135 mil. If you're the Padres, you better give him a big hug, big guy. Because when you look at it, this guy's the top 5 player in the league. I mean, not player, I'm sorry. Top 5 center fielder, and he's only he's a sophomore year. Top 5 center fielder, and he's making 15 mil for the next 9 years. Yeah. It's crazy, huh? Especially in this market, in this economy, where players are making 30, 40 mil and they could barely swing a bat. That's what I'm trying to get to about. That wasn't me trying to get to anything, but that was just saying how much of a steal that is for the Padres. That's good for them. They can go out and get some other guy. So, because Machado's locked up for a while. Tatis, Merrill, Bogarts for a little bit. Or Bogarts might be coming up soon, but that core is going to stay together for a little bit, which is a good start to the franchise, which is a good way to boost the franchise up. Like the Dodgers doing the same thing. Otani's locked up, Betts locked up, Freeman's locked up for another 2 years, Edmonds locked up for the next 5 years, Teoscar locked up for the next 3 years. Yamamoto's locked up for the next 12. Glass now for the next 5. So this is all. The Padres are on a good track. They'll get there. But there's a lot more talk of the time in baseball, and obviously we'll wait more as the year unfolds, the season unfolds, players are playing. But I'm still riding with Bobby Witt to win the MVP. I mean, Judge is killing it, but Bobby Witt Jr. MVP. All right, guys. Well, that pretty much does it for this podcast. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I know this is kind of a little bit scrambled around, but this is the first one in a while, so we'll be more organized next time. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you to all the people that have been asking me, where's the podcast? Where's the podcast? Where's the podcast? And to have some technical difficulties. But I really do appreciate shows you guys care, and I really do appreciate all you guys that do tune in to listen to it. So thank you guys so much. I hope you guys have a good one. Take care. God bless you guys, and I'll see you guys next time.